Hi, and welcome to another Weight Management University and My Weight Loss Academy Lifestyle and Behavior Modification class. Today we're going to talk about goals, kind of where to start, how to get there. So goals, barriers, and a plan for success. Well, that's one of the first questions we have is where do we start? Ask yourself some questions. Be honest. You're not answering to anyone but yourself. What is your reason for wanting to lose weight? Is it to improve your health? A lot of times we see patients who want to either reduce the amount of medications they take or go off medications. It's just a matter of gaining some self-confidence, kind of finding themselves again, doing things that they haven't done for a long time, or maybe they've never done them. Those are all good things. Sometimes it's just to improve the image in the mirror, and there's nothing wrong with that. It kind of ties in with the self-confidence or self-esteem. So there's no right or wrong reason for losing weight or wanting to lose weight, but in order to set goals that really make sense to you, you need to be honest with yourself. These goals, and sometimes people say, well, does it matter if I write them down? What difference does it make? Goals really do matter. We want to make sure that they're realistic, and if they're well-planned weight loss goals, they can truly mean the difference between success and failure. And we want our patients to succeed. We want everyone to succeed in reaching those goals. These goals can also help keep you focused. They're going to keep you motivated. They can kind of, inspire you to keep going when you hit a roadblock of some sort. But they also provide that plan for change. So even though you know where you want to go, it kind of helps us figure out how to get there. Well, we use the SMART acronym a lot, and what that means is really when we sit down to set some goals, we want them to be specific, we want them to be measurable, they need to be attainable, relevant, and it always helps if they're time-bound. All right, so what do I mean? Well, be specific. It helps to ask yourself these questions again. Why is this goal being created? What are the benefits to reaching this goal? You can put those in that document when you write something down on a piece of paper or type it out on your computer or wherever it is that you're putting these goals down. I like to write things down. It's just, I don't know, putting your hand on a piece of paper kind of makes it real. But put these things in your goal, the reason why you're trying to lose weight to start with, and what those benefits will be. If there's someone else involved in this goal, sometimes it's not weight loss. Sometimes it might be, training for some sort of race or whatever. If you're training with a coach, that coach is involved in that goal. Maybe meeting with a trainer twice a week to accomplish that goal. So that can be how another person's involved. Spelling out exactly what needs to be accomplished as well. If you're training for a race and you're meeting with a trainer, twice a week, spelling out what that's going to do for you, that training, whether it's 30 minutes a session or an hour a session, spelling out the details of that session with the coach. Well, what's your desired outcome? That needs to be in there as well. Whether it's completing that race in a certain amount of time, or thinking back to weight loss, if it's reaching a certain number on the scale, or if it's getting into a certain size piece of clothing. Those can be numbers that you can use in your goals. And when this goal will be reached. We talked about time bound. That needs to be on there too. So it needs to be a specific date or time of the year, whatever you want to use, but it needs to be specific. All right. A goal doesn't do you much good if you can't measure the progress. So we want an objective way to track our progress. And this needs to answer that question, how? So if we can state that in our goals, the progress that we can measure on a scale, that's relatively easy. We can see the pounds disappearing. Very often, if you're going through more than one size in a set of clothes, you can see those numbers decreasing as well. How about though, like say let's go back to training for that race. How would you measure that? Well, either covering that same amount of distance in a shorter amount of time, or being able to run further than you did last time. So there's a couple different ways that you can measure that, but once again, it needs to be specific when it's written down in your goals. Is it attainable? Well, let's find out. We need to evaluate the steps in that goal and assess your skills and your abilities and attitudes. I think the most important one there is attitude. With a can-do attitude, there are very few things that you can't accomplish. But we do need to take a look at your skills and your abilities. Now, abilities we may or may not be able to change, but skills are different. We can study to acquire skills. So even though you may not have them at the beginning, those are things that you can pick up along the way. Going back to the training for a race, you may not have the skill it takes to run a 10K or whatever at this point, but that's something that you can learn. All right, and then ask yourself if you're willing and able to put forth the necessary work to see that particular outcome. Very often we might be able, but are we willing? And are we ready? I guess that's another question. Ready, willing, and able, right? Be honest. If you're missing one of those three key elements, your odds for success probably aren't as great. All right, we also want to know that our expectations are realistic. If we set expectations that are not realistic or just way out of our reach right now, it's going to leave us feeling defeated right off the bat. So those realistic expectations help increase our self-belief. They help motivate us and keep us driven. All right, so are these goals really relevant to you? You know, I talked in class last night about the fact that everyone has unique goals and unique needs and abilities. So these need to be reflected in what you write down. If you were to write down a goal and pass it to a stranger on the street, well, that may or may not work for them. It's just not something that was designed for them. So these are very individualized. Your goal needs to be relevant to your specific situation. And if it is, then it's going to help keep you motivated to achieve that goal. All right, so when are we going to get this done? If you've got a date in mind, great, write that down. If you kind of have a feeling for a date, well, go ahead and write that down. We're not carving these into stone or writing them down on a piece of paper, either in pen or pencil, but something that we can definitely change if necessary. So we're going to create a schedule for these goals using that date in mind. It helps us plan these little steps along the way. We do want to kind of allow for events and holidays. You know, if you're going to be gone for 2 weeks and you're training for this race, if it's not something you can do while you're away, then adjust your timing there. Same goes with weight loss. Sometimes if we're away on holiday, we just shoot for maintenance rather than a tremendous weight loss while we're gone. And we also want to plan for goal review and adjustments because, like I said, we're not carving these in stone. We want to make sure that there's some adjustment room there if necessary. All right, I'm going to go back to those same questions again. Why do I want to lose weight? Write that down. What are the benefits? Write that down. Is there anybody else affected? Write that down. Okay, now put these three together. When you answer these questions and kind of put them together in either a sentence or a couple sentences, it gives you a much more achievable goal. All right, so I'm going to address the medical program here and talk about what you can expect to see at the scale. This is really, once again, kind of individualized. Those that have a little more weight to lose sometimes see it a little faster, especially at first. But a healthy weight loss usually occurs fairly slowly and steadily. So you want to plan to lose at least 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. In order to do that, you need to burn an extra 500 to 1,000 calories every day, more than you consume, I should say, each day. You'd have to know, if you've been logging your foods and whatnot, what you were eating beforehand to maintain, and then figure in the 500 to 1,000 calories less in order to achieve that. Once again, if you're part of the medical program here and Dr. Clark's given you a calorie parameter, try to stay within that. If you're doing this through My Weight Loss Academy and you've done your configuration there in the chapter, you should be able to come up with something that's fairly accurate. We do caution you not to drop below 1,000 calories a day unless you're medically supervised. All right, so also consider, if you're looking to lose weight and putting this in your goal, you might want to pick a percentage of your total weight as a goal. Say 5% or 10% of your total weight right now to use as a weight loss goal. That's very helpful. Most Americans can probably stand to lose a good 10% of their body weight, and they would be better off for it. All right, we're going to focus on the process too, rather than just the end game. Make the most of those. Using a process goal rather than an outcome goal sometimes helps us put it all together. So saying I will exercise 3 days a week for the next 6 weeks is maybe better than saying I will weigh 185 pounds in 6 weeks. So the one gives us a process, a way in which to reach that goal. Now, very often when we're looking to lose weight, we need to change the processes that we've already got in place. There's a lot of daily behaviors or habits that will probably get in our way if we continue to do what we've always done. All right, we're going to think short-term. Short-term goals keep us engaged on a daily basis. If we're not engaged on a daily basis, there's sometimes way too much time in between when we're actively focused on our goals. So put a bunch of short-term goals in place as well. 2 or 3 is probably a good option in between that long-term goal. These short-term goals can also be stepping stones, a kind of a plan to reach that long-term goal. They add motivation and they increase the sense of reality. So it gives you something that's within reach. Those long-term goals need to be feasible for the long term. If we set too many, we get distracted, it just seems unattainable and unmanageable. We end up overwhelmed and unmotivated. We don't want to go there. So like I said, 1, maybe 2 long-term goals, and then a couple short-term goals to help you reach those. Those long-term goals are set in place to help motivate you over the long haul. Write it down. Like I said, there's nothing better than touching a piece of paper that has something written on it, especially if that handwriting is yours. So when planning your goals, write down everything and then try to go through the details. I mean, you can make it pretty later on, but once again, these questions are here. When and where are you going to do this? How are you going to fit that into your daily schedule, whether it's a walk or whatever, meal planning? Find a way to fit that into your schedule, but maybe write that down. Well, what do you need to get started? If you're doing menu planning, maybe a set of recipes or a calendar, something as simple as that. If you're training for a race, a good pair of shoes and some comfortable, breathable clothing there would be good. So those are things that you need to get started. Another question, if snacking is a problem, well, what snacks can you cut out each day? And who's standing there ready to help you along the way? I mean, besides us here at the center, you've probably got friends or family, coworkers, somebody that can actually help you along the way. People really do like to help, but sometimes you have to ask. All right, so when you've got all these in place, we want to be able to track your progress to see if you're meeting those goals. And we want to make sure that you do that on a fairly regular basis. So plan this series of small goals, and these will help you keep tabs on where you are in that long goal or long range goal as well. But looking at a series of small goals that build on each other instead of a big all-encompassing goal will help reach that long goal. Try not to take things or undertake things too intensely or too vigorously right up front. We want to start, I guess, slowly or cautiously sometimes. If we bite off more than we can chew, it becomes uncomfortable, and it's one of those things that we burn out fast and are more likely to give up. Keep in mind that you may hit a barrier of one kind or another. Setbacks are a natural part of behavior, or I should say a natural part of behavior change. Sometimes we hit plateaus. That scale may just stall out for a week or two, maybe even longer. These are going to happen usually to more people than not. There are also people in your circles that are probably saboteurs, whether you or they know it or not. They may not be consciously doing this to you or for you, but they're out there. So be aware that you may run into one or two or more. There are some barriers, and they are inevitable. We just can't predict everything. So sometimes we can plan for things that might happen, even though we don't know when or where they might get us. So identifying those barriers or detours that might happen allows you to plan for them. Keep in mind, too, that anyone and everyone who successfully made changes in his or her life has experienced some kind of setback. I have not met anyone that can say, oh yeah, it was clear sailing all the way. Never had a problem. If you meet that person, bring them in. We'd like to take their picture. All right, evaluate your progress. Each week, like I said, I want you to review your goals. No, maybe not every week, maybe twice a week. Whatever works in your kind of schedule. Ask yourself some questions. Were you able to meet all of your goals last week? Maybe yes, maybe no. Well, what worked and what didn't? Think about that. We're going to take what worked and maybe try to apply it again and find out what didn't work and look at something that might work better. So that helps us make plans for how we're going to reach our goal, not only for the rest of the day, but also throughout the week and maybe into next month. If something isn't working, remember goals are dynamic. They evolve, they change, and we're going to write them down in pencil. Well, if not, you can line through your pen. But as we progress through our lifestyle changes, our goals are going to change too. So don't be afraid to change those goals or methods. It's just part of the game. So you might actually even meet your goal sooner than you expect, and you're ready to take on some sort of larger challenge. Go ahead and adjust those goals to better fit your new lifestyle. There's always a reward, whether it's mental or physical, whatever. Picture yourself at your goal. Is it worth the struggle? You can close your eyes. Sometimes that helps. It's definitely worth the struggle, you know. And maybe it wasn't so much of a struggle. Maybe it was just something that came easier than you thought it would. It's all right to reward yourself. Depends on what you like. And once again, I like little shiny things. So reward yourself and enjoy the outcome. Can be something as simple as a half an hour of peace and quiet, or a trip someplace you haven't been. But there's all sorts of ways that you can enjoy that outcome and reward yourself for that job well done. Then go ahead and sit down, draw up some new goals. We've celebrated the ones we're achieving, and we're ready to move on. So good for you. All right. Lots of things to do to review those goals. A few tips here. Once again, think SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Be honest with yourself. No one's judging you. And make sure you write it down. Sometimes it even helps to leave it someplace where you don't expect to see it. I like to write them on bright colored paper and then throw them in a drawer that I'm in every once in a while. So come up with some fun hiding places for those goals. Here's a little tip for the day. Eat to meet long-term goals, not the short-term satisfaction. You've probably heard Dr. Clark say that at least once or twice. So thanks again for joining us for another lifestyle and behavior modification class. We'll see you back here next week. If you do have any questions, please email us at success@cfws.com. Thanks again.